Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Battle for Greyport, the cooperative deck builder game set in the Red Dragon Inn universe. And no disclaimer for this one, we bought the game ourselves. It's funny, I thought I had already done a review of this game because it was on my top 10 cooperative deck builder game list. It was number 3, so I love it. But I realized I had actually never done a video review, but I got the chance to fix that because there is a new crowdfunding campaign for a reprint of the game and a new expansion today. And at the end of this review, I'll have a little bonus section where I talk about the new expansion, so check that out. My number 5 point is focused on the scenarios you can play through in the game. The core game comes with a bunch, and then you get more in each of the expansions. And this is generally a pro. First of all, they have a bunch of different scenarios at different difficulty levels, easy usually being pretty simple to defeat, and the hardest ones being very challenging overall. And they each have 3 encounters you work through, and usually the most interesting is the third one because that's when the bosses come out. And the first ones are pretty basic, but they get pretty crazy, like hydras that have multiple heads, or summoners that keep on bringing out more people, giant dragons, priestesses with cultists following them, lots of fun things. The scenarios also have you defending different locations with different ongoing powers, different bonuses if you defend them, different penalties if you fail, which certainly changes up the feel of the game. And you also face different groups of enemy types in each one, which have consistent abilities and like little traits to themselves, dealing more damage, having more life, that kind of thing. All of which, again, makes the game feel pretty varied as you play through different scenarios. My number 4 point is focused on the heroes each player controls, and I love this mechanic. It is great. So each player has a hero with 3 increasing levels of power, and they level up after each encounter. And these are cards you can play with the rest of your cards, but at the end of each of your turns, you always get them back into your hands. So it's a consistent element you can always rely on, which has some really great benefits. First of all, it gives a really strong feeling of ramp up because your hero gets stronger and stronger. Second of all, it gives you consistent combos and interesting choices in your deck building because you know what your hero can always do every single time you have them available, so you can build for that specifically. My number 3 point is also a pro. Yes, that's 3 in a row. I really like this game. And that's the managing of enemies in the different areas. So first of all, you've got some enemies on the location, and they'll be dealing their damage to the location after every player's turn. But players can taunt them away into their own player area, which means they are getting crushed by the enemies. They're getting closer to death, but it saves the location. And you get a nice variety even in the same scenario because the enemies are pretty varied within the decks, and you always get a different assortment of them in front of you. And seeing which players have nastier abilities, which ones have bigger things you have to deal with, and kind of cooperatively deciding who to really focus on, who to spend your strongest attacks against, how to again save that location. It's just a really engaging part of the puzzle, along with the simultaneous play that I'll talk about in a moment. But my number 2 is my first mix for the review, and it's a really important one because, as I said, this is a cooperative deck builder, and the mix is the deck building. So first, let's start with the positives. Every player has a set of 4 coins in each encounter. At the end of each of their turns, they get to spend one of them to purchase a card, either a hero or an item that can be equipped on a hero to boost them when you play them. And I love these. They take away any of the resource management you have to worry about in a lot of deck builders. You can just focus on buying the awesome stuff, and the things come straight into your hands, so you can play them on the very next turn and just do some awesome stuff with them. And also because the coins come in higher denominations in each encounter, meaning you can purchase more expensive items each time, you get a nice natural ramp up in your deck building in that your heroes have already leveled up, as I mentioned, and the items and heroes you're recruiting become stronger and stronger. But there are some pretty major negatives that bring this down to a mix for me. First of all, there is a lot of luck sometimes in what is on offer. There are also very few opportunities in the game to call cards from your deck, although the expansion I'll be talking about after this review does address that, so that problem's gotten a little bit better. And finally, a big thing, if you like deck builders that have a lot of combos and sort of an engine building feel to them, this is not that kind of game. You get awesome items, you get more powerful heroes, but except for some minor combos like your hero being able to use 2 weapons or something like that, really you're not going to get like huge combos where you play a ton of cards like multiple times in a turn. But that important part I just mentioned, using your cards, is the best part about the game. This is a full pro with a caveat, and that is the simultaneous cooperative card play to deal with the monsters. So on every player's turn, they can play a hero and they can play an item if they have one that matches the hero's color. Then they can attack with both rolling dice or dealing automatic damage to one of the enemies trying to kill them. But every other player in the game can also play a hero, can also play an item on them. So every turn is not just kind of a solo thing like a lot of deck builders where you just kind of play through your cards and everyone else goes to sleep. No, instead you are intimately involved in every single turn. And the most interesting of those choices is the resource management, because you'll usually only have a hand of 5 cards plus your hero, but you have to make that last all the way until it comes back around to your turn. But this is where my caveat comes in. I'm still going to call this a pro, but if you are playing with only 2 players, and suddenly that amazing puzzle becomes just as simple as each of you playing a hero, and also you each get back your really powerful hero every other turn, so you're playing this almost all the time. It really takes away a lot of that resource management tension and those tough choices. So because of that, I really don't recommend the game for solo unless you'll 3-hand the heroes. There is no like true solo mode, but unless you'll play at least 3 hands of characters. I don't really recommend 2-player unless you'll each double hand, so you'll each have 2 heroes to play. 3+ players is where I think this game shines, where I think Battle for Greyport is at its best. So yeah, as you can see, this is one of my favorite deck builders of all time. I love this game. Definitely look into this one if you like tough card play decisions, great cooperation between players, tense combat. On the other hand, you might want to use some caution if you're really into deck builders for extreme engines and combos. You don't get that as much here. And also, if you think you'll mostly be playing 1 or 2 players and you don't like multi-handing, because 3+ heroes is where this game sings. And again, they have a reprint crowdfunding campaign going right now with a new expansion. If you want to see me check out that expansion and talk about my thoughts on that a bit, just hang on, it's coming right up. So as I mentioned, there's a reprint campaign on crowdfunding today, and they've added a new expansion. They had a pirate expansion previously. That one's really good. I enjoy that one quite a bit. But now this new one is Chaos in Copperforge, and let's look at some of the stuff they add. So first, a huge thing is they have 8 new heroes, and I don't know if all of these are going to be unlocked right away, if some of them will be based on stretch goals and things. But I've played with almost all of these heroes in TTS. It's a public module, so feel free to try it out yourself. And they're really cool, and the thing I appreciate most, I mentioned this in the review, is that I think like 5 out of the 8 of them, or 6 out of the 8 of them, have a consistent culling ability. So if you want more deck control, if you want more consistent combos, you can pick one of those heroes and really fine-tune your deck in an awesome way. So I really appreciate that. It kind of directly addresses not one of the flaws in the game, but at least something that some types of players might prefer it to be. And then the other major thing is they have new scenarios, they have new bosses. Those are always great. But they also have these 2 new decks of monsters, constructs. And these are fun in that they directly interact with these new types of cards called contraptions. How they work is some of the constructs come into play with a random contraption underneath them, and it gives them a bonus. So this is not only an unobtainium golem, I guess that's a reference to Avatar, but it's an unobtainium golem with resistance to green dice, the strongest attack dice in the game. So based on which contraptions go underneath enemies, you're going to have like kind of endless variety of how they are dealt with and what powers they have. But the cool bonus thing is that when you defeat one of these enemies, this reminds me of Heroes of Tennefer, my favorite cooperative deck builder, you get to, or one of you gets to add the item, the flipped side of the contraption, to your deck as a powerful item. And a cool touch is that the players can cooperatively decide which of them is going to grab this item, so you aren't like forced to get something that doesn't work with your build. But some of them, like this cursed necklace, are even negative, so you have to kind of figure out how to deal with them and make maybe those new culling powers on heroes even more important. So yeah, I'll be honest, the most important thing for me in this new crowdfunding campaign is a new reprint of Greyport, because I think it is an amazing game, and I think because when the first edition came out, they made it too difficult, and they fixed that in the newest edition. I think it kind of got slept on a bit because of that. But I would love for more people to check this one out. Again, it's my number 3 cooperative or solo deck builder of all time. And I think between those new items, those new enemies, the new scenarios, and tons of new heroes, like basically doubling the number of heroes from the core game and expansion, the new Chaos and Copperforge expansion looks amazing too. So I'm really excited to get this one, and hope you all will go to the crowdfunding page and check it out yourself, because I think there's some really, really good work going on here. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.